So I swear that this is the last video I'm going to make talking about the Bristol paper roll that I've been using for a long time. I wanted to say that one of the things I realized is when you're cutting this, you want to measure it before you make any cuts. I mean, you know, as they say, measure twice, cut once. But the thing I've realized is if you're going to use a pencil, you kind of need to use like a thicker type pencil rather than a mechanical. I just used a regular HB pencil for this whenever I'm marking the page. The thing is, you also need something else to hold it down. This paper just, you know, it's been rolled for so long, and you can just like put like books on top of it, depending on the paper page that you want. But I will say, even when you're trying to do all this cutting, you do want to have this, like a piece of wood to at least hold the rest of it down. When you're cutting larger sides, it can be difficult. I've used a paper, like one of those rolling cutting things, but it just didn't work for me. And the other thing is I really didn't have a good surface to cut under, and I did not want to cut my floor. So I would always end up drawing the line, kind of pulling it out more than cutting it with just a regular pair of scissors. And you also need a roller of some type to you know, to do that. You know, you could use any roller, or, you know, I meant measuring tape, any type of measuring tape to do that. The other thing I want to say is I think it's really important if you want to ask yourself, is it worth the time? Because I think using regular paper like this, I mean, I guess if you want a larger size, they do have larger sheets. I guess it all depends. I feel like at the end of the day, Bristol is kind of more for stuff if you want something a bit more final. Like, you can do preliminary sketches and practice using this paper, but it's not that expensive if you buy it in bulk, but it can be, especially for this type. Like, obviously the roll will always be cheaper, but then you have to spend a lot of time cutting it. And the thing I've realized is that, let's just say when my time becomes more limited, it's difficult for me to just, like, I would rather spend my time drawing than spending a couple hours cutting the right paper. And the other thing is, when you cut this paper, you have to, like, wait quite a while for it. Like, after, you know, since it's rolled, you have to, like, put it under something with weight on top of it. So it's kind of like that. You can't use it right off the bat compared to just a regular thing like this. But yeah, I think if you are going to buy it, either get it from, like, Blick or Jerry's Artorama, because you could even buy it in bulk, and it's a lot cheaper that way. I do recommend that. You know, the other thing is this paper is meant for, like I said, more finished stuff. So like regular printer paper, if you just want to do like sheer amount of practice, I do recommend like 11x17 printer paper and just draw on a few stacks. I will say another benefit of Bristol is that if you draw on a few layers, it's a lot better. Because like if you don't draw, let's say you're drawing on printer paper as practice, but you're not drawing on a big stack of it, sometimes the back of the surface that you're drawing on may appear through it, or it may kind of like mess with your pencil because of the surface. But, you know, drawing on top of this, it's very smooth. That's the big benefit of it. Like, I feel like whenever I draw and I'm not using Bristol paper, I know that I'm not drawing on a smooth surface. And I will say, even when you do cut this, sometimes you do have to mark it more with a measuring tape and pencil again to cut it more before you could use like a cutting board. I have not found a cutting board big enough for like something like the 42-inch roll. I mean, I think if you want to actually make something that's more economical for yourself, you'd have to like DIY your own massive cutting table for the paper roll that holds it down and cuts it with like a large blade of some sort. But I mean, you would have to, no one wants to, I'm going to tell you, most people are not going to be able to do that or even have the room to make a giant cutting thing. I mean, that's just my 2 cents on it. And I feel like it's just a lot more hassle than it's worth. I feel like more people who just want to draw would just be wasting their time going through this whole process. I mean, yeah, it's cheaper, but the downside is you do pay in a lot of time to go, you know, to kind of just do all the cutting. And the other thing is, I feel like in very few instances is it worth it in which you could get something more final that you want. I could be wrong on that. Like, I'm pretty sure you can make something, but it's like you really gotta wait for it to become flat. I wanted to say, yeah, you know, just dealing with this paper more, I don't know, I like it more when it's like you could fit it into different binders if you want to organize yourself more. Rather, if you use a big sheet with here, uh, you're really going to hope that you're cutting it to the right size so you can store it somewhere. But yeah, I'll say, like, if right off the bat, like, if you think you could just get away with this, you have to get like a bunch of tools. You need a large area. You also want to make sure you have like a piece of wood. Like, I had a friend that cut this up for me, or this plank of wood. And he had a workshop. He's really cool. But yeah, he cut it for me. But it's just, it's all these extra things that no one ever really thinks of compared to if I just got this instead and worked off that, or if I also have the 11 by 17 paper. So it's like, I recommend that over all the other stuff. I mean, I will say, like, I have a 20 by 26 drawing board as well. And I guess the big benefit of this paper is that I cut a couple sheets, or just two, so that I could kind of like clamp two pieces over. So whenever I'm like drawing with a piece of Bristol, I have two other pieces of Bristol under it. So it's like, yeah, this is good for if you need a really big sheet, either if you're trying to do like some big composition, or if you need like another surface to cover an existing surface. I mean, I will say most drawing boards, the existing surfaces are smooth, but I think it's always a good idea to have just a couple extra pieces under it. Like, for example, I have another drawing board that I use. It's kind of just like a small table that I use, and I use 2-inch big binder clips for each and I draw on a couple. I think this is about 3 pieces of Bristol paper, and I just draw on top of that for whatever I'm doing. And I do recommend that. I mean, I've gone back and forth with these videos before talking about the process, and it's just like, I feel like most people just want to draw and do their art, and they don't really want to mess the time with the bigger paper. But I feel like the Bristol rule, there is an edge case for when you can do it. Oh, my last gripe that I will say is that when you do get this roll, it's taped from one end, and you cannot get that tape off without like ripping a chunk of the paper out of it. And it's just like, it ruins it ruins some of the paper when you're taking it off. I don't know what was up with that. I don't know why they do it. I mean, clearly they do that so it doesn't unroll in transit, but let's just say I was pissed when that happened. I mean, clearly it's no one's fault, and maybe it's just like as they say, the devil's cut. If that's like comparing it to the distillery process or whatever, or like when you put stuff in barrels and it gets absorbed by the barrel grain of wood. But just to compare it to that, yeah, I think you're probably really better off doing this, but if you're doing sheer amount of practice, just use like printer paper. But yeah, I hope this video kind of helps you. I feel like me struggling through this and kind of just coming back to it much later it is good for me to do, and I'm happy I could like make this video, and hopefully you don't lose time, and hopefully you even save time or learn a few things compared to what I've gone through in my experience with all of this. So yeah, I hope this helps. I do love Bristol. It's Bristol Series 300, I believe. I don't know why it doesn't say 300 on the page. I know, oh, it's on the top. But yeah, I think they also make a 400 series. I don't know if it's smoother, but that would be pretty cool if it was. I do like this paper. I mean, I don't know, it just feels right to draw on. I've also, like, I feel like, sometimes when I'm experimenting, I will erase, and I feel like I don't ruin the paper when I do that, and I'm actually able to erase it. You also have to be careful of the eraser that you use as well. But yeah, I hope this helps you. I think all this paper does serve a purpose in one form or another, and I guess it all depends on what you want to do. I mean, I must seem crazy that I have all of these drawing surfaces. I have like 20 by 26 drawing board. I think I have like an 18 by 24. No, I'm sorry. It's like, I think it's 12 by 18, the little drawing table. And I tend to draw in all types of positions, sometimes like sitting on the floor, sometimes sitting at a table, sometimes standing at a table. And another one that I just have, like another board that I have that's I think it's 18 by 24, and it's just like a freestanding board. Yeah, I know it's weird, but it's just, I don't know. I draw in a lot of different positions, and sometimes if I ever wanted to do more practice, say like in public or somewhere where I'm not in my room, I may use different things like that. And, you know, I'm probably just the odd one out when it comes to this, but I guess you'll just have to find for yourself what works for you and what doesn't. So I hope this video helped you out some. Yeah, let me know in the comments if what your experience is. I'm always interested to do that, but I feel like a lot of people who are getting this paper just don't know what they're getting into, and you know, they may go back and forth with like what they need. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening. Bye.